So hit it.
Hello and welcome to This is the Play Sports, the podcast. It's pretty late tonight. It's nearly, checking my phone here, it's nearly 10:21 right now, p.m. That's way past your bedtime, I believe, right, Dad?
It is. You know, we have a special guest, John Coon and Jim Burton, with us tonight. And Jim Burton and I are both 57 years old, so staying up this late is a little bit of a struggle, eh, Jimbo?
It is. If I don't fall asleep at 9:30, I don't fall asleep at all. So I've got a brief window. And then
there's,
you know how it is.
Athletic John. John's been up for hours. He
will
be up for hours. He can stay up all night.
And I'll probably be up for more hours too. Covering late games, I'm just kind of used to being up at this time.
We all should be, but you wear it well. So, Austin, it was an exciting game, Michigan and UCLA.
Yeah, it really was. I feel bad for that Wagner or whoever his name is properly pronounced in German. He had a couple chances to win the game, tie the game. Wagner, thank you, Wagner. Thank you. Our German correspondent, Jim Burton, just said that in my ear. I feel bad for him. But, what a great story for UCLA. There's Cinderella right now. They're 11th seed moving on to the Final Four. It's a great story.
Well,
it is,
One thing that's really interesting about that is UCLA is the second team to go from first four to Final Four. First one was VCU in 2011.
Led by Shaka Smart, Texas Longhorn coach now. Thank you.
Well, he just took the job at Marquette this week. He left Texas for Marquette. So,
see, that's what I get for
somebody had too much time on his hands. Me, I looked it up.
Well, we got rid of that clown. Good, finally. Oh.
So it should be interesting. Now the other semifinal is an all Texas thing, and I don't know if people know it or not, but Jimbo is our resident Texan. Jim, Baylor and Houston.
As we say in Texas, I wasn't born there, but I got there as soon as I could. I did spend my formative high school years in the Lone Star State. Shout out to the Plano Wildcats of Plano Senior High School. I'm excited for Baylor and Houston. And as we were joking earlier, and this, I'm sure there's a guy walking around, at least one guy in the state of Texas whose name is Baylor Houston, and probably another guy whose name's Houston Baylor. But anyway, and then Austin, our beloved Austin here, also named after a Texas city.
Oh, that's right. I am named after Texas City. That's right.
All right. My boy, McConaughey. No, I'm excited for the Final Four. Last time the only time I was actually at a Final Four, 1998. The Utes were there, and it was in San Antonio, and it was ridiculously humid, but it was a fun time, and so I'm excited. When I see Baylor and Houston, it makes me think of the old Southwest Conference basketball that I grew up watching. So I'm excited.
It's gonna be interesting. Well, John, you got some classic teams that are kind of getting back there. Houston, remember with Olajuwon and that, they used to get to the finals. They didn't win it, but they'd get there. Then you got UCLA with their great tradition, and you got Gonzaga, a team out west that keeps knocking on the door. This might be the year they kick that door in. Pretty interesting Final Four, don't you think?
Yeah. And Gonzaga is obviously the preemptive favorite with how they've been steamrolling competition. They've won NCAA record 27 straight games by double-digit margins. They've only had one opponent that stayed within single digits at the final whistle. They seem like a team of destiny. Baylor matches up decently with them in terms of length and size and athleticism. UCLA, not so much. So it'll be interesting to see who Gonzaga faces in the final. I'm already predicting that they roll right over the Bruins after seeing what the Bruins had on offense tonight.
Well, before we move to the next quarter, I wanted to get everyone's picks in the semifinals and the whole darn thing. So you're taking Gonzaga to win the whole thing, John?
Yeah, Gonzaga will cut down the nets. They're going to have that perfect season, 32-0, first one since Indiana in 1976. It'll be the great story everybody talks about for until next season.
Who are they going to beat in the final, Baylor or Houston?
I'm going to go with the upset and say Houston. We're going to have a true non-power conference matchup.
All right, Jimbo, how do you see the Final Four tournament?
I think that would be cool. I'm gonna say it's gonna be the Zags. I like the Zags, and I like Baylor, and I like the Zags to win.
All
right. I'm gonna go chalk on this one, as they say. They look so good. Gonzaga. I'm really impressed with them. I'm a big fan of that program. I once bought a really sweet Gonzaga hoodie from the Gonzaga from their whatever that's called, the campus bookstore, and I don't know what happened to it. It got lost somewhere, but it was cool, and I wish I could wear it right now.
You know what? But the gear will be available at fans sooner than later if they win it.
I'm sure it will be. Way back then, it was a trip to. It was actually a trip to Cheney, Washington, to watch a Weber State Eastern Washington game, but nearby Spokane. Carl Arkey and I went to the bookstore and loaded up on gear.
Sweet. Austin, how do you see the Final Four turn out?
I'm going to make two predictions. I'm going to predict Jim finds his sweatshirt while moving his house this week. I think you are moving this week, right, Jim?
Pretty soon. Yes.
Pretty soon. Okay. And then my next prediction is that Baylor will shock Gonzaga. Ooh. Gonzaga will have an off night. And I'm only making that prediction because I think it would make Dennis Lindsay happy. He's a Baylor alum.
What about John Stock?
Yeah, I think there will be some banter that week between the two, and I'm sure that'll be a fun, feel-good story in the local news. But I think I just see that Gonzaga hasn't been challenged yet, and I think that's almost a bad thing. I think they haven't learned how to deal with adversity, and I think first time they get that crack, it'll happen.
I'm going to go Gonzaga to win, and I want Houston to be in the final, but I have a feeling all year long the pundits have said that Baylor and Gonzaga were the top two teams in college basketball, and they're each one step away from proving that and being in the final. But I'm going to go with the Zags, John Stockton and the boys from his school. A little younger generation, but they're going to win it. So, well, let's move on to the second quarter now. University of Utah made an interesting hire this week. John, you cover the Utes right now. Were you shocked that Craig Smith emerged as the next head coach?
Actually, I personally felt like he was the most likely candidate. I know a lot of people have batted around the names of Alex Jensen and Johnny Bryant, but I felt like in the case of each one, their lead assistants on NBA teams, they're both in line to be NBA coaches within the next 2 to 3 years. Why would they leave that for a college job, even if it's their alma mater? Usually an NBA guy comes down to the college level when they don't have really any better options at the NBA level. And having said that, right. Craig Smith, fantastic hire. He had 3 straight 20-win seasons at Utah State, led them to the tourney 2 out of 3 years. Would have been 3 years if the tournament hadn't been canceled due to COVID-19 last year. They had back-to-back Mountain West title runs. And he can flat out coach. He can develop his players, get the most out of his players. I think Utah fans have a lot to look forward to with Smith at the helm.
Jimbo, you're a columnist for the Standard Examiner and know that your finger on the pulse of Northern Utah. How do you think it's sitting in Logan that Salt Lake City or the U pilfered their coach?
I don't think they like it, and I wouldn't if I were them. But that's that kind of that big brother, little brother thing, I guess, that they've got to deal with. It's not like a earth shattering hire, but it does make some sense. Dirk, you and I, we were at Utah when Rick Majerus showed up, and I know we both had many opportunities to cover the Utes under Majerus, and that man casted literally and figuratively quite a shadow, and the Utes have not. I mean, they have, the program has just not been the same since the heyday, and it almost feels like it's trending in the wrong direction. And I hope Craig Smith can be the guy to change that around. They've had a couple of hires that I really liked that just didn't work out. I know you knew Ray Giacoletti real well. I don't know that things broke the right way for him. I think he's a good coach, and I would have liked to see things turned out a little better for Colonel Ray Jack, as you and I like to call him. But I wish all the luck in the world to Craig Smith and the Utes going forward.
Austin, we talked a little bit about the fact that at his press conference, he mentioned that they wanted to play the in-state teams. It was interesting. I looked up some things. Idaho State, since Utah's joined the Pac-12, has played in the Huntsman Center 4 times. That's more than Weber State, Utah State, Southern Utah, wow, Utah Valley, and Dixie State combined. BYU is the only other team that's been there 4. So there really has been a kind of a disconnect for having the in-state teams. And what's your thoughts on that? You think he's a man of his word, and we may see some Aggie Ute games in the regular season again?
Yeah, I hope he is, and I'm sure he is. And I think that's a great idea. I think the level of competition at BYU and Utah State is really going to push the Utes. And then I think if you're the big school, you and I talk about this all the time, like if you're the big school with the money, you kind of have somewhat of a responsibility to help the other schools out within your state, to provide them an outlet to make a little money, to create a little exposure. I don't know if Craig feels that responsibility per se, but I would like to see Weber State play Utah in the Huntsman Center. I think that'd be good for a lot of people.
Well, if nothing else, it creates a little more buzz, and for a program that's, taking a back seat to the Jazz, obviously. And then, I even look at the fact that BYU plays a game at Vivint every year. So you got, your rival comes to your city and plays a game 15 blocks away from your arena every year, and Utah sometimes talks about how hard it is to get a quality opponent to come to the Huntsman Center. Maybe they could talk to ESPN and get something brokered where they could play, a national power on the quote unquote neutral court of the Vivint Arena or something. So, I think there needs to be some creativity there to get Utah basketball relevant in the city again. And a lot of people think it's just about winning, but I think it's more than that, because I think the fans would rather see a game against Utah State or even Utah Valley, Dixie State, or anybody, rather than see Mississippi Valley State come in here and get drilled by 94 points. I mean, what benefit was that? And John, I don't know if you were at that game, but there's some validity to that comment, isn't there?
Yeah, well, and the thing is the justification with the past coaching regime. Larry Kriskoviak always said, well, we need these games to give our guys experience, and we don't want to make things too hard on them because we're such a young team and a new team. But the thing is that's how you get better, is by testing your players and testing your teams with tough competition. Sure, you may not get the 20-win season, but if you do, you put yourself in a position to get that at-large NCAA tournament bid, because your strength of schedule is in the area where the selection committee likes it.
Right. And then, and even you look over at Colorado and Colorado State play home and home every other year, there's talk that a Pac-12 team doesn't necessarily travel to Mountain West or to Big Sky schools and that, but here you got Colorado, and they've got a pretty good program over there. Every other year, they're going to Fort Collins to play their rival.
The landscape of college basketball with conferences realigning and everything, it's in a lot of ways, it just makes me, and I'm an old guy, as you and I, we've already mentioned that tonight, but makes me kind of wistful for the days when Utah and BYU would play twice a year, conference games. Majerus would find a way to get under Roger Reed's skin. Just that was fun. And basketball, even though the Utes are in the Pac-12 and I feel bad that BYU's in a good basketball conference, but I've kind of longed for those days when college basketball just had a different feel to it around here.
Right.
And a lot of that had to do with teams playing conference games.
Yeah. And then, in the non-conference play, obviously, with everybody kind of dispersed around, you could argue that Utah does play their rival out of conference every year in BYU, but those Utah State games were fun. Those Utah Weber State games were fun. And then I think a lot of people are interested in what's happening with, the upstart programs in Utah Valley. Southern Utah had a good team this year, won the Big Sky, and then Dixie State's on the rise. So with that, well, let's jump to the third quarter, and let's start with Utah Jazz. And the guy who gives me all my info on the Jazz is right here. What's up with the Jazz? They look like they got an easy part of the schedule right now.
Well, they're probably a little rattled right now as we speak. You probably saw this on social media. Their team charter plane hit a flock of birds en route to Memphis, so they had to turn around and make an emergency landing back in Salt Lake. They're saying I don't want to speculate on why, but Donovan Mitchell's going to miss that next game against Memphis due to personal reasons, was what the PR team tweeted. I wonder if he got just very rattled by that incident. Apparently, it was pretty scary. I'm going to put this up to the camera on our thing here. That's a tweet from Austin Horton. Just like an insane. Look at that. That's insane. Yeah, just huge amount of damage. The engine looked awful too. So that was the hot Jazz story of the day for sure. As for their play, they looked good against Cleveland the other night, and they played Cleveland, so I'm not going to read too much into it.
Yeah, well, they're killing the opponents and birds, apparently, John.
Yeah, the birds are about the only thing that's been stopping the Jazz lately. It's been incredible to watch them after the All-Star break. Especially Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are both just been dominant. Rudy's really stepped up his offensive game this year. You can see that he's much more impactful on that end of the court than maybe he was even a couple of year or two ago. Donovan's been starting strong, been aggressive from the get-go in recent games, getting into possessions early, pushing the ball early. And you're seeing it. He's scoring a lot. He's given the offense a big boost early in the game. And the Jazz had been struggling with their first quarter starts, but since Donovan's kind of taken over early in the game, that trend's reversed quite a bit. And it will be interesting how they react with him out of the lineup on Wednesday, because he has given them such a lift early in the game. It'll be interesting to see who kind of steps in and gives that early boost in his absence. Will it be Conley? Will it be Ingles? It'll be fun to find out.
Well, and there's that scheduling quirk too, of playing Memphis for the third time in 4 games. That's kind of an interesting dynamic to keep an eye on too. Can the Jazz get a sweep over a decent team, not a great team in Memphis, but a decent tean? And
in some ways, it's almost like a playoff series, right? With how close the games are together.
You're right.
And Memphis could end up being a team that the Jazz see in that 8 slot come playoff time. So might be a little playoff preview we're getting now.
Well, that leads me to the question with you, Jimbo. Denver Nuggets made a move. The Lakers made a move. Some teams are making some moves.
Yeah.
Is that going to make this really tough for the Jazz? I mean, I think people see the 1-8 as a winnable thing, but whoever comes out of that 4-5 series, that's going to be a battle for the Jazz.
That will be interesting. I would like to just point out the flock of seagulls hasn't had a hit since 1986. So I feel like that is a win for them. R.I.P. to the flock of seagulls. That guy had weird hair anyway.
You had that do for a while.
I was sitting on that joke for a good 5 minutes while John was talking. No, I'm just kidding, John. But I did think of that joke, the flock of seagulls. Anyway, it was
a good one.
The Jazz are looking great. I don't know that they needed to make a big splashy move at all. They play a great team brand of basketball. Everybody knows. I mean, if you've covered the NBA, you understand that playoff basketball is a different animal, and it's all about possessions and making the most of your possessions. And it comes down to good coaching. I think Quinn Snyder's a great coach. I think he makes good adjustments. I really like the way he runs things, and I believe in him as a coach. And I do think that they've got this great thing going with Gobert and Mitchell, and like I've said, that's just such a great team brand of basketball they play. They're very fun to watch. I haven't seen ball movement like that since I tried on silk boxers. You might want to cut that. You may have to cut that one out. I'm sorry.
We're not beholden to anybody. We'll leave it in.
Exactly. Hey, let's jump to the fourth quarter and talk about Zack Wilson's pro day. I appreciate John. John helped me with the topics for the quarters today. John, why don't you start us off? Apparently, 31 of the 32 NFL teams were there, and they think he put on a pretty good show.
Oh, definitely. I watched, wrote about it for the Associated Press. Zack just made some incredible throws, crossed his body, downfield, slants, curls, wheel routes, you name it. John Beck, former BYU quarterback, who's actually personal coach for Zack Wilson, drew up a script that was like 60 to 65 passes for the pro day. And Wilson had a couple of shaky throws in there, but man, most of them just right out of the park. I mean, they were fantastic. He really helped his case for being possibly as high as number 2 in the draft come draft day.
Well, Austin did a story on Brady Christensen. I understand he had a big day too.
Is that a question for me? John. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Well, Brady had an impressive lift. He had an impressive jump. I mean, his broad jump, I believe, was one of the best that they had seen from an offensive lineman in many, many years.
Yeah, I think it was a BYU record too.
Secured himself, second, third round draft status just based on his performance. And before the pro day, he was probably looking at about 5th round or so. But I mean, that's how much of a difference what he showed made on that day. And there were a couple others that did well as well, got themselves into the conversation. Micah Simon was able to get a free agent deal based on his 40 time. Chris Wilcox has got himself being projected into about the 5th round right now based on his 40 time. And so there were a few different Cougars besides Zack Wilson who really showed up and had excellent pro days, and it's going to pay off for him in terms of getting noticed by NFL teams here in the spring.
Austin, how about jumping in on Brady Christensen? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was really happy to see him do so well. Like you mentioned, I wrote a story on him, got to talk to him, and talked to his high school coach, Larry Wall. It was interesting that he was so agile. I don't know how they say it, at his pro day, because that was something that Larry Wall specifically said was what secured him a scholarship at BYU. Larry recalled inviting Bronco to send one of his guys to Bountiful to check Brady out, because he felt like Brady had next level footwork. And apparently Brady's taken that even further to that next level where, his ability to move as a big guy is going to take him to the NFL, make him a lot of money. He's a great guy too. I really enjoyed talking to him, so I'm really happy for him.
Jim, you've covered the Cougars for several years in that.
Yep.
BYU football back now that they've got some legitimate interest from the NFL again?
I think Zack Wilson's really given them a boost. He looked so good in that bowl game, and he's just a fun kid to watch. And it's interesting. You see the 49ers make a little move to get up to the third pick in the draft, and there's no doubt in my mind that they're eyeballing that they're hoping. I honestly believe that it would be the best possible thing for Zack Wilson to not have to go deal with the New York Jets in any way. I hope that he doesn't have to. I'm not a big Niners fan personally, but I think that'd be a great spot for him. I think there's kind of a BYU San Francisco 49ers feel that's always been there, going back with Steve Young and Tom Holmoe and a lot of guys like that. And man, I think it's going to be fun to watch Zack Wilson play at the next level. I saw ESPN, I wish ESPN would hype people a little bit more. I'm just kidding. They threw out a comparison with Patrick Mahomes, and I just winced. I literally winced on behalf of Zack Wilson, thinking, why do you have to do that like this? It was similar to this.
Okay,
one of those type of winces. I'm a method actor. Don't make me cry, because I can do that. But I just thought, God, let's not start throwing Patrick Mahomes' name out there with or throwing Zack Wilson's name out there with Patrick Mahomes quite yet. That's not fair to him. But he does kind of have. It strikes me that he's got some leadership intangibles that Mahomes may have. And now, see, I'm doing the exact same thing that I thought that I winced about when I went like that. But he does kind of have some really cool qualities that I think will be fun to watch at the next level. And we'll just leave it at that. So I'm excited for Zack Wilson. And like I said, nothing against the Jets. That's not a great organization. And I hope he doesn't have to go play there. And the fact that it's in New York. That's a lot of pressure.
Well, guys, thank you for joining us this week. It's time for our parting shots. John, you want to lead us off?
We talked a little bit about Utah basketball earlier, and one thing that's becoming apparent is the players are getting excited about Craig Smith, and I think there's going to be a real excitement about that program. I mean, tonight you saw the news where Riley Batten withdrew his name from the transfer portal, and he's coming back to play for the Utes again. It's possible that some of his teammates follow him and rejoin the Utes. But even if they don't, I mean, the core that's going to be there, Smith's going to have them working as a well-oiled machine in the first season. I mean, Utah does have talent in the program, and I think he'll be able to fill the gaps with some transfers from the portal. And this is a team I feel like can be in the top 4 of the league within Smith's first year as head coach. I mean, he's going to have that much of an impact on the program.
All right, we're going to hold you to that. Jimbo, we're going to take a step back and let the younger fellas go. So, Austin, what's your parting shot?
I'm just excited for minor league baseball to be back. That was kind of on my mind. The Bees were supposed to start around the same time Major League Baseball starts this week, but minor league baseball got pushed back to May. But they announced their schedule. Their Twitter account is finally active again. They tweeted out that tickets are available. They're going to let fans into Smith's Ballpark. I'm definitely going to plan on going to some Beast games this summer. So I can't wait.
All right, Jimbo.
I would like to give a shout out to Lily from the AT&T commercials. I've been very impressed with her. I've seen the only person I've seen that's got more camera time this March would be Mick Cronin's dad. But I do have conflicting feelings about Lily from AT&T. One minute I go, I really like her. And then another minute I'm like, she's annoying. But anyway, that's all just in good fun. We're just joking. But I do really, I love March Madness. And I've kind of reconnected with it a little bit this year. It used to be when I covered Utah basketball many years ago during those great runs that they made, and they'd run into Kentucky every year. And I had a great run in. One of these days, we'll talk about my relationship with the great Kyle Macy. That could be a fun segment, I think. But it just, I love the NCAA tournament. And tonight's game, the second game tonight, was one of the great games that I've seen in a while. And I really just found myself sitting back and enjoying college basketball. And that's been a fun thing. It's something that I think I've needed personally. So we're excited.
I think it's been healthy. My parting shot is going to go out to the Pac-12. I think they did a remarkable job in the tournament this year. It was actually fun for once to see a conference that one of the local teams plays in and do some big things, and to have, Oregon State was kind of a fun team to watch go through this. UCLA is now obviously getting to the Final Four, but Oregon State picked last and then making it to the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament. And then, Oregon was there, USC. It's just been a fun year, a fun ending of the year for the Pac-12. And I know, John, you've covered the games in that, but I don't think anybody saw this coming. And that's kind of why they call it March Madness, right? Things can happen.
Exactly. I mean, nobody could have predicted that the Pac-12 would do this well in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising, and it's like you said, part of the madness. It's so thank you very much for your part.
Fun. That's why we all love it. But right, that's why we love March.
Yeah, but I think, when does Utah host it again? Is it next year or the year after? I think it's coming back fairly soon.
I thought it was 22-23.
Heck, I'm running out of fingers. I don't know how many. It's within 10 years.
Yeah.
I hope.
I don't know.
No,
if not,
it's not like the old days.
2023. I'm not entirely sure though.
But it's sure fun to cover we've all covered those in person, and we've been lucky. You see a different side of things from that perspective. As to make Jim's point, it's been fun watching this tournament on the couch.
It has,
and being away from anybody that's not wearing a mask. So good. Well, thanks again, guys, for joining us on the late notice. Austin, it's bring her home. I want to thank Sammy Fates, our engineer, and everybody for helping us do this. And these guys, folks, I literally called them an hour before and asked them, and they're good friends, and I appreciate them joining us. And
I think we're all a little tired, but we appreciate it. Yeah,
we're a little lippy.
Okay. We love you guys, man. Anytime, it's fun.
Let's do our giveaway wrap.
Love to come back.
Spin the wheel.
We love it. Let's see.
Here's the wheel. There you
go. I hope I win this time.
I hope it's not a family member.
We're one away from Uncle Scott. Grandmaster NSO. I have no clue who that is. Google Mail. I'm not. Is that how? All right. Well, okay. Cool. Grandmaster NSO. Thanks for subscribing to our newsletter. I'll send you a picture of the prizes we have left. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We may actually throw a Twix
that's
bar
for me.
in.
That's my snack.
Well, I might.
Hey, don't take away the boy's snack. I call him the boy.
Yeah, I need it.
I've known you since you were a baby.
My Powerade, okay.
I know that, Jimbo.
Practically raised
Uncle
him.
Jimbo. Uncle Jimbo.
That's Uncle
What
Jimbo.
number did you get?
You know what? There's no number.
Did you get a number?
If I got a number, it would be number 4. And you know why? Kyle Macy. We'll have to tell that story.
I thought it was Scott Lieber.
Well,
I'll tell the story now. The other night I was driving somewhere, and Kyle Macy was calling the game, NCAA tournament game on the radio. So I called you, Jimbo. But of course, as usual, Jim didn't pick up when he saw the color ID.
I scared the hell out of him 2 different seasons during the NCAA tournament. And he was this close to thinking he needed a restraining order against me. I was a huge fan of Kyle Macy as a kid, and it was fun to meet him as a Kentucky broadcaster. I'll just say that, and then we'll share the rest of the story some other time.
You got it. Well, guys, be safe. And to our listeners, thank you so much for supporting us. Go to thisistheplacesports.com. We have new stuff all the time. We're growing, and we want you to join us as we turn into the giants of the market. So thanks again.